Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Tuesday episode of The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler. You are inside The Lock Shop. If you're watching on the live stream, let us know which bets you like tonight. Let us know what you're on. Let us know what you're staying away from. The Lock Shop is brought to you by our friends at Coolbet. Stay cool. Bet responsibly with Coolbet. And if you sign up for an account at Coolbet, use the bonus code LOCKSHOP. You get a 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit up to $200. Huss, what's up, buddy? Happy Tuesday.
Hey, right back at you, dude. Yeah, we had kind of a somewhat eventful Nhl Trade Deadline in more cities, or some cities more than others. Not Edmonton or Winnipeg for the most part, which certainly give us plenty of fodder to talk about our respective shows. But I'll tell you what, it was an amazing weekend. I know the Masters didn't quite have some of the drama until maybe the last couple holes because of just how well Riddick played and how some of the top players didn't stick around for the weekend. But I got to tell you, it was a huge week for the wide world of wagering. The 3-match WrestleMania parlay came in, the Aussie Rules football came in, and we were this close, well, about this close actually, from nailing Chase Elliott in NASCAR. He finished second, so it was just about a clean sweep. It then inspired me to bet on the Rock Line in the World Curling Final on Sunday night, Dusty. So it was overall a great, great weekend. Loved the final round of the Masters. We had WrestleMania, wide world of wagering was going on, and now we're just sort of back to business before we fire it up again for Friday's show and another big weekend. But this is going to be awesome. We've got some hockey to talk about, some baseball, and the golf. Great field this weekend at the RBC Heritage. Usually after the Masters, you'd see most of the guys not stick around, not this weekend. So pretty awesome lineup for the Tuesday Lock Shop, my friend.
Yeah, we've got a lot on the go. This is going to be a good one for sure. The momentum continues to grow here for the wide world of wagering. So I am ready. Be ready for Friday night, 8 o'clock Mountain Standard Time in the Lock Shop for the wide world of wagering. We're going to debut the No Red Light special today here on a Tuesday episode as well.
I can't
We're going to try to continue to build the momentum here for the double play parlay, which we hit last Tuesday as well. Before we get to our puck picks, we were talking about it before, the deadline day reaction. People aren't loving what happened in Edmonton, but I don't know if there's a lot of people hating it. Huss, I know people in Winnipeg were expecting some sort of big ad on the blue line. They didn't get it. And on top of that, the odds makers at Coolbet had the total trade set at 16.5. Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. That's impressive.
Well, and you know what? We should do a quick Lock Shop public service announcement here at the expense of your coworker, Tyler Yaremchuk, because there's one thing to have a bet where it looks like it's going to cash, but there's nothing worse than doing the touchdown dance before you get to the end zone. And I don't know if there's a more dangerous bet to do that with than under X number of trades at the NHL Trade Deadline, because what do we know at 2 o'clock, even if nothing's happened, a whole bunch of things come afterwards. And it sounds like our friend Tyler got worked at the last minute by that Anthony Mantha trade that put the number from 16 to 17, hitting the over. Kudos to the bookmakers who somehow nailed that, and a cautionary tale to not get too excited until the check is actually cleared.
Quick shout out to Yaremchuk, actually, because he was texting me on Saturday with DraftKings on the Masters, and at one point he was in a spot where he was going to win $1,500. He was at one point, he was 18 points out of third place in the DraftKings, and then Hideki kind of took over and he didn't have him, and completely, I think he ended up coming away with like $60 or $80 or something. But he had this DraftKings sweat going Friday afternoon and Saturday morning like nothing I'd ever seen, buddy.
I maintain that golf is the best DraftKings sport, and I love DraftKings. If you listen, NFL football, Sunday is certainly the granddaddy of them all. But I know a lot of people that weren't big DraftKings players, and through our show, we've been doing some contests. And hey, try out Masters. The majors are always bigger pools, and now we're starting to run regular contests for the other tournaments because people enjoy them. And as opposed to normal daily fantasy, if you get in the standard way, it's a 4-day tournament. You have your cut sweat, hoping you can make 6 out of 6 through into the weekend and then see what happens. So It was awesome. I had a pretty good, my guy Will Zalatoris came through big time for me in both the bets. He cracked the top 10, Cam Smith as well. And both of those guys were on the squad. So it helped out big time. But I did not have Hideki, unfortunately. After a pretty, an almost Tony Finau-like level of support of Hideki over the last few years from yours truly, I unfortunately got off at the wrong time. But man, I was happy. And that was a really awesome scene at Augusta. You could tell, I mean, obviously he's Japanese and doesn't speak English that well, but the impact and the emotion of what he had done walking off that 18th green before he got the green jacket was something I'll remember for a long time. So, man, it was awesome, and looking forward to another great tournament this week. But as I said, Yaremchuk's had some ups and downs over the course of the last few days.
He's in on everything. He dabbles in everything, so he'll have a chance to bounce back.
That's why I love it.
You know what? The caddy bowing to Augusta, that's an all-time classic Masters moment. Is it? Like, I thought that got me emotional. I was just like, damn it, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was a really cool moment. And, there's something about listen, I don't want to completely generalize here, but I mean, I think the Japanese, especially the elite Japanese athletes, carry a big part of their culture, which is a little different than North Americans. Sometimes you'd say that they're stoic and very serious, and Hideki kind of was that at the heart, although there was lots of smiles on the course, but there was a heaviness to actually accomplishing it. And I'm not sure a lot of people here on this side of the pond understand the sort of pressure that a superstar like that has had on his shoulders for the last few years. This has sort of been expected, or at least was a few years ago. And I mean, he's still under 30, but it just goes to show, Dustin, in pro golf, how great all these players are and how hard it is to win, period. Ask Tony Finau, never mind winning a major. So to get it done, what that means for his future, and more so really than any tournament. I mean, when you win the Masters, you're a Masters champion forever. Yep. You're going back to the tournament every year. And it's a big, big game changer. So that was big for him. But this is a guy that was playing literally with the hopes, dreams, and pressure of an entire country on his back. So I'm fascinated to see what Hideki does going forward, because often we've seen guys that, when are they going to win a major? When are they going to win a major? They finally do, and then they don't stop there.
All right, let's get to our puck picks for the day. Then we'll get into the dog pound, which is a non-hockey dog pound all around today. We're going to take a look at some other sports, double play parlay, some picks for the RBC Heritage, which is coming up, and then your no red light special still to come. As for the puck picks today, Huss, I'm going to let you go first because I actually really like yours. Would have been my first choice here as well with the Washington Capitals. Lay out while you're on the Caps here over the Flyers tonight.
Well, here we go. I mean, this is sort of a short slate tonight. I mean, we've only got 6 games, and a couple of them are sort of big favorites in Boston over Buffalo. And, Tampa Bay's a big road favorite, and they haven't played very well lately. So I'm going to go to the Caps. And I'll tell you what, this number's moved a little bit since I originally picked it late last night and sent you the picks. Had them at minus 154 and got in on that. Obviously, a lot of people liking this one. It's minus 167 right now. But essentially, Philly is done. They just traded a few players yesterday, got rid of Gustafson, not a big one, Michael Raffle. But, they're looking to the end of the season right now and pretty much playing out the stretch. Meanwhile, the Capitals made, probably the biggest trade of the entire deadline right at the end, getting Anthony Mantha out of Detroit for Vrana and Panic and a first and a second round pick. So, I mean, I think Brian McClellan's really sent a message to his hockey club that, they are all in. They realize that the great years of Alex Ovechkin, are coming to an end in somewhat the near future. So they're all in on this. I mean, they love beating up on the Flyers. They're all-time rivals there, and it's just been a rough season for Philly. So I really like the Caps in this game. Minus 154, as I said, it's gone up a little bit right now, but get in. We'll probably be at 175 by the time they drop the puck. And again, just looking for a winner. This was a reasonable number, I thought, with a relatively good chance of coming in. So I went with Washington. And I'm going with Toronto in that bounce back situation after suffering that loss last night. They're minus 185 against the Calgary Flames team. And I know there's some, maybe not excitement because the season's been a little bit disaster, but Flames
they looked pretty impressive against the Oilers, but an Oilers team on Saturday that was clearly emotionally disconnected from that hockey game after what they went through with Colby Cave's funeral earlier in that day, and Connor McDavid talked about that. So I'm not going to read too much into the Flames' success and offensively kind of get it going a little bit here. You've got the added storyline of Dave Riddick getting the start against his old team, which I think there's something to prove there a little bit after he played pretty well, especially last year. They replace him, they bring in Markstrom, and Riddick's an afterthought. He gets traded. I thought Calgary did pretty good at the deadline as far as return that they got for some of these guys that they moved. So I think that's a good step in the right direction. But as for tonight, I think the Leafs come in, refocus, new additions to the lineup. I'll take, and the line's moved a little bit here too. I saw last night at 185 when I was building the graphics. As of this morning, it's sitting at 179. So a little bit of money coming in on the Calgary Flames maybe here, but I'm on the Leafs minus 185 here, Huss.
Yeah, I mean, this is an obvious pick considering where these teams are in the standings and the way they played so far this year. The only thing that could be a bit of a concern is the fact that the Leafs did play last night and are on the second end of back-to-backs. And I'll tell you what, Dusty, it's going to be fascinating as we handicap these games and make picks for the next month before we get to the end of the regular season, is that there's really not a lot these teams are playing for right now. I mean, listen, if the Leafs had lost last night, or they did, if the Jets had actually won that game, and they get to 4 points, maybe they think they're in striking distance of getting the Leafs. But I even heard Paul Maurice talk about this, and it was interesting for a guy that seems to like line matching so much, that he said, I'm not even sure how important home ice advantage is this year with the fact that there's not going to be fans in the building. So I think teams will be honestly more thinking about being healthy, playing well, trending in the right direction at the end. So whether we see some of these playoff teams resting guys at times, I mean, we know who's in the playoffs right now. There's not a lot of suspense or drama. And I'll tell you what, it's probably about 90% that we're going to be seeing Montreal, Toronto, and Winnipeg, Edmonton in the first round as well. So if that does hold, it'll be interesting to see kind of just how coaches handle things down the road. Because, I mean, I really did think that in a 56-game schedule, the final week of the season would have 2 or 3 teams fighting for their playoff lives. Just with what's happened in Calgary and Vancouver, it just has not happened that way. So it will be interested. And I think this right now is a challenging time for a team like the Leafs that, knows, but they will get some new players into the lineup. It'll take a little bit for Foligno. So, this will be an interesting one. And then what do we get from Calgary, who's just playing out the stretch right now? They can get up for a Saturday night game against Edmonton after being embarrassed the way they'd had lately. Now let's see about a weeknight game in an empty building on the road.
Capitals minus 154, Leafs minus 185 are your puck picks for a Tuesday in a light Tuesday night NHL schedule. As for the dog pound, I think because of the light Tuesday night in the National Hockey League, there weren't a lot of dog picks that kind of jumped off the page. I contemplated Nashville. I contemplated Nashville a little bit against Tampa. I think Tampa's coming off a 3-0 win against Nashville, though, and if Tampa goes, I mean, it's tough to knock them off. So I contemplated Nashville because I didn't mind the number for a team that's been playing as well as they've been playing lately, Huss.
Yeah, I thought about that a little bit too. The other game that, if we were making the picks right now, I might have jumped on is Dallas. Dallas is now basically even money and Florida's minus 116. They opened that up as a straight pick 'em. And Dallas was interesting. We thought a number of players might be on the move from Dallas, but in fact, that wasn't the case. And they picked up Vatanen off waivers. So maybe they'll get a nice little push for the next little bit. But I went to the ball diamond for the dog pound. And I think right now, you can kind of, isolate in on some pitching matchups of guys that had good starts and good numbers on teams that are at home. And I'm going to, this might be the only time I actually bet my favorite team, the Kansas City Royals, but I'm going to do it right now. They've got Danny Duffy on the hill tonight, who was brilliant in his first start, gave up no earned runs on the hill against the Angels. And the Angels have had sort of an up and down series. They've got Dylan Bundy, who was okay in his first start. So at plus 113 on the money line, Royals coming back at home. I'm going to put a little sprinkle on KC for the dog pound, although that won't be the pick for the double play parlay.
Yeah, we'll get to our double play parlay a little bit later on. As for my dog today, I'm going to look at the Lakers on the road. Second half of back-to-backs here. They're 2-point underdogs against the Hornets. The Hornets have been in this stretch right now where they got the Bucks without Giannis, beat them. They got the Hawks without Trae Young, lost to them. I think they blew a lead against the Hawks. Now they get the Lakers without LeBron, without Anthony Davis. But we have to remember Charlotte is also without Hayward. Charlotte is also without LaMelo Ball. So there's a lot of star power missing on both sides of this matchup. The Lakers so far over their last 8 games have been alternating wins and losses. And I think the difference here for the Lakers, which is why I don't mind them as an underdog in this situation, is that there's not much of a post presence for the Hornets. And we just saw it against the Nets. The Nets really couldn't contain the big man Drummond. And I think they've got more going for them on the inside than the Hornets do. And Drummond still basically had his way with Brooklyn earlier, or I guess would have been back on the weekend. So I think Drummond's going to have his way with the Hornets tonight. So I like the Lakers +2 as an Association City road underdog here in the dog pound.
You know, it's funny. You just mentioned all those guys that are out of the lineup, and you're essentially betting on a G League game right now, which is interesting. I didn't even look at the hoops today. I was still rattled from last night. Just before I went to bed, I threw on the TV, watched 5 minutes of the Denver game, and saw
the worst
Jamal
5
Murray
minutes.
tear his ACL. Well, exactly. It was just that's so sad because that team is exciting. Jokic, from everything I read, has basically already won the MVP for this season.
He's a stud,
which is quite interesting. And but I mean, to have a Canadian star playing alongside him on a real competitive team, is exciting. It's fun to watch, and that sucks for the Nuggets, but it also sucks for the league. Jamal Murray is a real young, budding star, and that's really unfortunate. And with the tear of the ACL, you wonder what that means even for next season right now. But I hate to say it, but I think we're going to be turning out the lights on Denver, even though they've got the MVP of the league this year.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, in the West, with that group, good team, like really good team, but you lose Jamal Murray, he's such a difference maker for them. That definitely changes the way that you look at some of the teams in the West that could possibly take a run. These teams that have got their injuries out of the way early are going to have these rested guys going into the playoffs, and it's probably going to make a significant difference, I do think. All right, let's get to your double play parlay. We hit it last week, and it wasn't even a parlay. We just decided to do a couple of picks, and we're like, you know what? Let's mix them in. Let's put them together, and it ended up working out. So we're going back to it again. Your MLB double play parlay. Haas, what are you bringing to the mix this week?
Well, I'm going to go and I guess what did I have last week? Oh, it was a Yankees run line against
and I had
Baltimore.
the Dodgers.
And I took them at -1.5, and I said, you know what? I might even put a little sprinkle on this at 2.5. I did. They won by 5, so there was a good mojo to these double play picks right from the get-go. Now, I'm going to go to one of the late games today, and again, when making these picks, I didn't want to. If there was a chance, I had someone for a nice win. But not at a big number. I was going to go for it, and that's why I'm looking in at the San Francisco Giants going up against Cincinnati. Kevin Gausman was awesome in his first start. He's on the hill, and the Giants actually, I believe, are technically a slight underdog in this game at -105. But the Reds have had some ups and downs, to say the least, so far. I'm still mad about the Nick Castellanos suspension. That was garbage. But in this game, I like the Giants. I love Gausman on the bump, and I'll take the starting pitcher. Home team -105, Giants in the double play.
And I'm going to bring the Houston Astros to the table. They've lost 3 in a row after a really good start. I mean, I think they started with just 1 loss in their first 6 or 7. So I'm going to go on the Astros minus.
You're going to bang the can with the entire pick.
I'm trying to look at what you're saying. I was wondering. I thought you were like drawing with chalk on the side of that Diet Pepsi, but you were banging on the can, which is great. Look, buddy, if it's part of the double A parlay, I don't care if they're cheating or not. I'm on the Astros -182 to get back in the win column after, like I said, an excellent start. They've lost 3 in a row, including one against the Tigers yesterday. So I will go with Houston -182. Haas is on the Giants at -105 for your MLB double play parlay here on the Lock Shop. And if you are watching on the live stream, you want to comment, ask us any questions, just let us know what you're on, what you're avoiding tonight. You can do that in the comment section. Also subscribe to the podcast wherever you find your podcasts. Just search for the Lock Shop. You can download that, subscribe so you do not miss an episode. And it's a Tuesday, which means we head back to the links, and coming off the Masters, in which, Justin Thomas hung around there for a bit, went away. Spieth hung around there for a bit, went away. we had guys in the mix until about midway through Sunday, and then it kind of went away. So we're going to try to reload here for the Heritage here, Huss.
Yeah, listen, I was I was in such a good mood Saturday afternoon looking at what was going on. Justin Thomas would I think he was 2 shots off the lead. He was in the perfect spot. We were talking about a potential Justin Thomas and Speed final pairing on Sunday, which would have been perfect. And then the other guys that we talked about, Cam Smith with the top 10, Kevin Na in the mix for that. And then, of course, Will Zalatoris. And Justin Thomas throwing up all over himself on, was it the 13th or the 15th hole, was just so devastating. I mean, a perfect drive. He was in position. He should have had an eagle putt, and he ends up walking off that hole with a triple, and then so rattled, bogeys the next hole, and it was basically over for JT. But it was fun. And as I mentioned, when you look at this field, I mean, tell me the last time, the week after, directly after a major, you had these sort of names in a tournament: DJ, Simpson, Cantlay, Morikawa, Berger, Hatton, Fitz, Casey, Cam Smith, Zalatoris, Answer, all of these guys in the event. Usually there's either some time off, or you might have 1 or 2 or 3 name players that are in the tournament. Not the case this year, this week for the RBC Heritage. I'm going to stay away from the top few players. Webb Simpson was tempting. You'll probably get to that. He's certainly got a great course history here. It is the defending champ. But I'm going to go with the 2 guys. Daniel Berger at 22-1. I still like his game. He had a few issues at Augusta, but is still playing at a very, very high level. He's a guy that's been good here in the past. I think his game suits it well. But how could I not go back to Willie Z here for, back-to-back? The amount of golf that he's played, his level of consistency has been incredible. I mean, that's why he was in the Masters to begin with, without a PGA Tour card. He got enough exemptions, played well every time he got the opportunity to do it, and he ended up at Augusta, and now he'll be back at Augusta regardless of what happens, finishing second. So considering the confidence he's playing with right now, and the consistency that he's playing right now, and the iron game that he brings to the RBC Heritage, 29-1 in the mix. I mean, this guy is going to win sometime soon. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I think he's got as much momentum as anybody coming out of this tournament that's in this field right now. And I really think he now not only feels that he belongs, but now it's time to win. So I'm definitely putting a sprinkle on Will Zalatoris. And then for the long shot this week, this number 79-1 stood out to me with Brandon Grace. And there's a couple things. I mean, Grace at times has been, one of the top players in the world. He really had faded away for the last couple seasons. I believe he lost his father or somebody in his family, which was emotional, but came back, got a win this year. And then if you look back at the history of the RBC Heritage, he is a former champion here. So I think that, he's sort of under the radar, is building back up to contending on more weekends. And if there was ever a spot that he might be able to make some magic happen, maybe it's a place that he already has had that magic. So Grace at 79-1 is the bomb in the lock shop from me this weekend.
All right, for me, you mentioned Simpson, so let's start there. He's 1,400, so plus 1,400, 14-1. And I know he's up near the top here. What's he, number 2, I think, right now, behind DJ? But for a guy who has had his success at this course and how well he has played this course, I still like the number. I mean, his last 4, dear Huss, for me, a guy who is essentially always in the mix at 14-1. I know it's a little chalky, but I still think that's a really good number for Webb Simpson.
Absolutely. And you know what, Webb, Webb had a few holes that provided his downfall at Augusta, like most of the guys in the tournament. But he is such a brilliant ball striker. The iron play, very similar to the things that we were just talking about Zalatoris, and what makes him, so consistently dangerous, is absolutely something that we can say about Webb Simpson. And as I said, despite the fact they played last week, he comes to this tournament and this golf course and feels right at home. And for a defending champion with that sort of field, put it this way, I think the only reason the number is as high as it is, Dusty, is because of the other stars that are in this field. You get a little bit better value just because you got to beat some more top end talent.
Yeah, that's fair. That would be that number is where it's at as opposed to being a little bit lower down. The other two guys I'm looking at, one would be Answer, who actually finished second to Simpson at this last year. He's got 5 top 25s, T26 at the Masters this year. He's second on the tour in fairways hit, 14th in greens and regulation. Last year at this event, led it in accuracy, led it in greens and regulation. We saw what happened to him at Augusta, which had to be a little frustrating for him, but he's a pretty good number at plus 3,200. And then the other one, it's almost I'm going to look at, we talked about it going into the Masters with some of these guys, and that was the form that they're currently playing in. And Brian Harman, who's at plus 3,900 right now, so you're going to get him at 39-1. Finished top 3 in the Players, which got him into the match play. Finished T5 at the match play, which got him into the Masters. And then in the Masters, he finished, T12, I think is where he finished in the Masters. So he's got 2 top 10s at Harbour Town in the past, out of 11 appearances. So that's not great. But I just feel like he's playing pretty good golf right now to have that number be at plus 3,900. So I'll toss a little sprinkle there on Harman. So I'm on Simpson, Answer, and Harman, the RBC Heritage.
It's funny that you mentioned Harman for a couple of reasons. First of all, whenever he's shown on television, he either looks like he's 15 years old or 55. There's no real in between, and it's very funny. But Harman, when you compare him to other players at 39-1, Tommy Fleetwood, Sergio, Siwoo Kim, his number is much lower for top 5s or top 10s. And that's to your point of just how consistently good he has been lately. So plus 550 for him. Most of the other guys are 6 or plus 650. And then plus 275 for top 10. Just speaks to how consistently good Brian Harman has been. A little bit under the radar, not getting into the winner's circle, but cashing some pretty big checks on the PGA Tour as of late.
So there we go. RBC Heritage. You're right. The buzz around this tournament this year with some of the talent they got there, a little bit more so than we saw other years from the coming off the Masters. And it was like for us, I think I still really, really enjoyed the Masters. I think for the typical, your golf fan who comes in and out, if it was a Spieth Thomas final match on Sunday, probably would have brought some more eyes to it. But I think there's good momentum coming off of the Masters this year.
No, I do. I saw the TV ratings weren't very good. And listen, if you tune in, like, oh, it's Masters Sunday, what's going on? And you turn it on at the 13th hole and Hideki Matsuyama is up by 6 strokes. I can see maybe checking out something else on the tube. But for the most part, it was just great to have the tournament back. It looked right. It was great to see fans back on the course. And yeah, I mean, absolutely. Let's keep it going into the RBC and the rest of the major circuit as we get going.
All right, before we wrap up this, go ahead.
Red light. No, I'm fired up for this no red light parlay. I've got my pencil right here. I'm going to make notes and I'm going to back you on this one.
So I decided to dive into this on the weekend. I took some of my Jesse Puljärvi 8.5 goal earnings, and I decided, you know what? Let's go from getting the goals I needed to going to goals that I don't want at all. And that's what we've got here, your no red light special. I hit a 6-player no red light special on Friday. It was Saturday, and I hit a 5-player no red light special on Sunday. And then last night I went 4 of 5 because Wagner gets a breakaway and buries his 4th of the season to completely ruin it for me. So I'm getting back on that horse tonight. Here are my 5 players I've got in your no red light special. It works out. The last 3 that I've done have been plus money. This is minus 109 is what it's going to get you right now. Okay, so not the plus money, but pretty darn close. I'm on Yanni Kukkonen, New Jersey Devils, minus 667. Was that the Spangler a couple of years ago? I like him, but not tonight. How about this? Joe Thornton, minus 588. I don't know how this isn't more of a minus 800 or minus 900. Joe Thornton doesn't score goals in the best of years. I love him at minus 588. This is incredible. So I've had him actually. He was on my, I think he was on my Saturday one, and he paid off for me. So I'm going back to Joe Thornton. Then I'm on. This guy's been on every one I've had so far when he's been available. Eric Holla, minus 714 to not score tonight. Eetu Luostarinen of the Florida Panthers against the stingy Dallas Stars, minus 909. Throw him in.
How do you spell that when we're looking for it? Just familiarize me.
Luostarinen. Arinen, Arinen. and then the one that I might be a little worried about just because of the current predicament the team is in, but the season he's had, I got to sprinkle him in here. Jeff Skinner at minus 769 tonight. So you are on Yanni Kukkonen, Jeff Skinner, Joe Thornton, Eric Halla, Eetu Luostarinen. If all of those guys fail to score tonight, as expected, you'll be turning around almost doubling your money here, Huss. Let's get on it right now. The No Red Light Special.
I love it. I love it. Consider me in on this. And this can be, we've got Wide World of Wagering on Fridays. This can be a Tuesday segment where we just jump on a bunch of guys to be ice cold and not show up on Tuesday night and make money off them. Great idea, Dusty.
It's when I hit that first one, I was like, how have I not been doing this every night of the season? Like, what are the odds that one of these, like, so came back to bite me in the butt last night, but I'm going to get back on it again tonight. And it's fun. Buddy, we follow the National Hockey League very closely for our jobs and we're fans. I think on Sunday night, I had money on a guy not to score I'd never heard of in my entire life. I was like, okay, I'm not even sure this guy's a real player. Click, put him in the mix. So there we go.
Well, I'll be honest. There's sure as hell no way I could pick out Kukkonen or a Luostarinen out of a police lineup right now if I was offered $10,000 to do it. So.
All right. Well, minus 109 is what you get that at tonight. Your first ever No Red Light Special. Let's hit it.
Let's absolutely do it. And hey, if you haven't already and you do want to play at CoolBet, get in on this or some of the other picks and use promo code LOCKSHOP and you get 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit.
Huss, Winnipeg Sports Talk today. What do you got coming up on your show?
Yeah, well, you know what? A lot of kind of reaction to the deals or the deals that didn't happen yesterday, focusing on Winnipeg, but around the league as well. Scott Billick of the Winnipeg Sun's going to join me. And we're actually going to, I mentioned the curling, Dusty. The Grand Slams of curling are now going into the bubble. And Jason Gunlickson, who represented Manitoba with the Brier, Gunner's out there. He's always a fun dude to talk to. So we'll get the mood around the curling going into the Grand Slams. And not sure whether the Slams are going to be up on CoolBet or not. Hopefully they will be. But we'll have some tips on that and find out how scary it was for people when they had those false positives that shook up that event on Sunday as well.
If you want the Grand Slams on CoolBet, I think if you send a nice, polite text to Chris Abbott, they might be able to make that happen for you, buddy.
Hey, they could sort of become the home of curling,
exactly,
certainly in Canada. And I think that with all the action over the next little while, the World's coming up. Hopefully, whether it's Chris or the crack bookmaking team they have there, hopefully they've got some time for some of the slams because I've got to tell you, the curling betting has been great, been so much fun. Adds just a little extra fun to the event. And I think a lot of Canadians like me love to kick back and watch a few ends, especially if you got some scratch on it. So we'll cross our fingers on that. TBA. That's
gonna do it for another Tuesday episode of The Lock Shop. If you've been watching, we appreciate the support. If you've been downloading the podcast, that is awesome as well. You can leave us a comment on the Apple Podcast comment section. We'll get to those. Huss, enjoy the rest of your week, buddy. We'll catch up again Friday night in The Lock Shop, man.
You got it. I'm already working on the wide world of wagering for Friday night, Dusty. We need to, so close to a perfect WWOW on Friday. By the way, that's the hashtag now, folks. And we'll see what it is, but good luck. And we'll see if we can be talking about our golfers in the mix on the weekend after the cut on Friday. Should be great.